If you lived for 300 years, what would you do with your time? Hello lovely book dragons, and welcome back to another video, or welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Joana, and today I'm gonna tell you whether or not you should read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So if you're new here, or if you haven't watched any of my reviews before, the way my reviews work is I give you a brief synopsis of the book, then I talk about a few tropes that can make it or break it for readers, and then we dive into 5 categories analyzing the book, which are characters, atmosphere, world, plot and pacing, as well as the writing. So if you want to know if this book is worth your time, keep on watching. In The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, we follow our main character, Addie LaRue, who lives in the 1700s France. So she was born in 1691, and she realizes that the small town life, especially back then, is not for her. She really hates it. She doesn't understand how people around her can just be content with living within the walls of this town and not want to do anything else, and not want to go and explore the wide world and see what's out there, you know, what the world has to offer. She doesn't understand that, and she's really scared that time will run out and that she gets stuck in this village in France and that she will not have done anything with her time. And as she grows up, of course, becomes time that she needs to get married. So when she was a young kid, sometimes her father would take her out on business trips, because he was a wood carver, so he would go to towns next to their town and sell his wood carvings. And sometimes he would take her with him, and she loved that, because for her it's, I'm getting out of my village, I'm getting to see another village, another town, and she loved that. And then as she grew up, he said, no, now you are an adult, you know, you're a big girl now, you need to stay here, and we need to find you a husband. And that for her is like the worst thing ever, because she doesn't want to marry someone she doesn't love. She doesn't want to marry someone and bear children and then become this like worn out woman, as she sees it. That's how she at least thinks of it. And she doesn't want that life. It's not the life that she wants. She doesn't want to be someone's wife and someone's mother, and that is it, you know. So one day she's in a situation where she is really desperate, and she runs away into the forest, and she is so desperate that she starts praying to the gods and to ask for a solution. And she doesn't realize that it's at night, and she was always told by the village witch or the village healer that you should never pray to the gods that come out at night, because those are trickster gods. So if you want something, you pray during the day, because those gods are the nice gods and they help you. But the gods that come out at night, not so much. You don't want to ask favors of them. But Addie doesn't realize that it's already nighttime, because she's in the forest. She doesn't really see, and so she prays. God answers, and she makes a bargain with him. The bargain is that she gets time. She gets to live. She gets to experience all these things. She gets to be on her own. She doesn't belong to anyone. The catch though, and she does not know this when she signs off, because she just signs off her soul when she's done living. Pretty much, she says, okay, when I'm done with this life, you can have my soul. And he says, okay, deal. The next day when she wakes up and she returns to her family, they don't recognize her, and that is the story of Addie's life. Every time she meets someone, as soon as they are out of sight, they are out of mind, and they don't remember her. They will never remember her. No matter what happens. For example, she has one time where then she's on the street and someone takes pity on her and is like, hey, come inside, I'll make you a cup of cocoa and you can warm up inside. And Addie goes in, and then the person's like, oh, someone's knocking at the door, I'm gonna go see. And then the person goes away, and when they come back, it's like, who are you? What are you doing in my house? So, because they've forgotten about her. So we follow Addie over the 300 years of life as she goes through life, through terrible situations, and how she copes with that, how she goes through it, and what happens in her life. I'm not going to say anything else, because I think you should know, I don't think you should know more than this going into this book. But yeah, I think that's what you should know, and nothing else. And this book is just really beautiful. Speaking of a few tropes, I think that the main trope that could make it or break it for you is insta-love. Now, it 100% makes sense in this book why the love develops the way it does, why the insta-love is the way it is. But if you're someone who's like, I will never read a book that has any case of insta-love ever, then stay away from this. If you don't like insta-love, but sometimes you're like, okay, I can recognize that it can be done well or make sense, then you can still give this a go. I think it won't be too bad for you. At least I am someone who doesn't like insta-love, and it was okay. I didn't care for the romantic relationship in this book, but I was okay. It didn't break the book for me, not at all. It wasn't like, oh, new ship, new everything, but it didn't break the book. So quickly, before we delve into the 5 categories of plot and pacing and characters and all that, I'm just going to talk to you about my personal enjoyment of the book. And that is, I loved this. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is not a 5 out of 5 stars like, for example, some of my favorites, but it is a favorite, but it's a quiet favorite. You know, I was thinking about this before filming this video. I was like, what could you compare this to? And you know, that there's days in your life when like, this is such a great day when you go on roller coasters. Well, I hate roller coasters, but some people love them. And when you do something, you go to a concert or anything, stuff like that. You're like, that was such a great day, and they're like vibrant days. This is more like, imagine you're sitting on your windowsill with a warm beverage in your hand, and the rain is falling on the window, and you're just listening to the sounds of the rain and watching the raindrops go down the window as you think about your life and you contemplate about your life. Like that's how I would describe this book. Exactly like that. It's a quiet, comforting, a little bit sad and moody, but yet perfect book. Like, it's not a perfect book, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's moody, it's a bit sad, it's very introspective, but it's beautiful, and it is still, I don't know, like cozy, comfy, like, I don't know. Like, that's the best way I find to describe this book. I absolutely love this. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. It is one of my favorites, but it's not like an exciting favorite. It's just like a quiet, in my heart favorite. And I absolutely love this. I could relate to so many things that were going on here. So many thoughts that Adeline has about time escaping her, because that is one of my biggest fears, is running out of time. I think it's everyone's biggest fear, but I'm really like focused on time. Ever since I was a little kid, I was someone who's like, but what if I die? And I was like 5 years old, and people were like, how is she so aware of death at this age? But yeah, like, I've always been someone who is afraid of time passing, and so I could relate with so much that was going on in this book, and I absolutely loved it. So now let's find out if you are going to like it. We're gonna start with the characters. Now, I confess, I am a character-driven person, and I didn't find Addie particularly lovable, particularly, I don't know, there was nothing. I will never put Addie on my favorite characters list, never. She wasn't a bad character, she wasn't uninteresting to follow. I really like her, but I don't love her. I liked her definitely more towards the end, but I've seen some people on Discord say that for someone who has lived 300 years, she is still sometimes, it doesn't show that she's so wise. And this is true. I think that she developed a lot as a character over the 300 years that we see her, but there's some things I'm like, really? Like, you are though 300 years old. I would think you would be a little bit different. But it didn't break it for me. I still enjoyed following her. I enjoyed also the other characters that we got to follow, which I don't want to talk about too much. We do get to follow a little bit that god that came out at night. She gave him a name, and it was Luc. And so we get to follow Luc a little bit, which is also very interesting to see someone who has unlimited power almost, and be so alone and needing company, needing someone to be there. And those are the things, like, I think I love this book for the themes more than anything else. And that is something that, yeah, I think we're gonna have to add themes here in this category, because the themes are what made this book for me. We follow Addie, who is so scared of running out of time, and then in the first couple of years of her life, first 100 years, should I say, of her eternal life, she spends it in France a lot of time. And Luc tells her, for someone who wanted to discover the world, you're still in France. What are you doing here? You have forever. Go discover. You cannot die from anything. Like, just go ahead. You know, she cannot die from being cold. She cannot catch diseases. And yet she still stays in France. And then eventually, of course, she goes and discovers the world in different places. But, like, what would you do if you had unlimited time? And would you do all the crazy things you think you would do? Or would you not? And also the theme of friendship and love, and what it is to be remembered, what it is to actually live. Is it that you get to live forever, or is it that you leave an impact on the people you live with? What is, you know, like, would you rather have a short life but everyone will remember you for something, or a forever long life but no one even knows you ever existed? What does it mean to leave an impact or leave an impression behind in whatever situation, even if you don't die? But if you, for example, leave a place, if you quit your job, what does it mean to leave an impression behind? Will people forget you, or will people still talk about you after you're gone? And how does that matter to you? Does it matter? Does it not matter? All those things. And the themes of, like, Luc, who is someone with, he's a god, he can do whatever he wants, he can have people do whatever he wants, because he at one point it's like he has strings over them like a puppet master, and they all do what he wants, and yet he feels alone. He needs company. He needs someone who knows him for who he is. And then we have another character whom we follow, who also, you see what it is like to actually be loved. Is it that people just agree with you all the time and say that you're perfect and say, wow, we love everything you do? Or is it people who just are there for you and they love you for who you are no matter what you do? And the theme of like actually being loved by someone, not like only romantically but also your family, these themes were incredible, and that is why I love this book so much. It doesn't mean that the characters are crap. It doesn't mean, well, world building we don't have a lot because it's set in our world. The writing was fantastical. This is the best book that V.E. Schwab has written, in my opinion. Her writing was excellent and stellar in this book. It was so lyrical and beautiful, and yet not over the top, because I don't like that. It was just the right amount of moody and beautiful, but not overly flowery purpley, and I loved it. The plot was interesting, but it wasn't a fast-paced plot because you keep on going back and forth into the 1600s, the 1800s, to all the years of Addie's life, and then you follow her in the present. It wasn't very fast-paced. The plot wasn't the main driving force of this. Well, at some point you do get a little bit of like a element of the clock ticking down for a reason. I'm not going to say what the reason is because I really don't want to say too much about this, but the main reason that this is so beautiful is just like the beautiful atmospheric reads that you get, and the way this book makes you feel, and the themes it discusses, and the atmosphere around it. Like I said, windowsill, it's raining, you have a warm beverage, there's candles around, and you're in your coziest clothes, and yet it's a little bit sad, a little bit moody. That's in this book. Oh, I loved it so much. So yeah, I actually realized that this is not very coherent in the end, but that's pretty much Addie LaRue for me. I don't want to say too much more about it because I don't want to spoil you. I don't want to give away any of the interesting things because there's some things that only come into play later in the book. And yeah, so if any of these themes, any of these things interest you, if you're looking for a fast-paced adventure plot, you're not gonna get it in here. If you want super characters that you're gonna get attached to, well, you may get attached to Addie, but it wasn't my case. If you're looking for world building, no, it's set in our world, but just with that little bit of magic from praying to the gods. So it's not any of that. It's just more of a quiet, theme-based book with an incredible atmosphere and incredible things to think about when you're done reading it and while you're reading it. And that is why I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars and why it is going to make it onto my favorites list. So that's going to be it for me today. Have you read Addie LaRue? And if so, what did you think of it? And let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. And if you haven't read it, if you are planning on reading it. And I hope you guys are doing wonderfully well. I wish you a happy weekend, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye guys.